What is Elohim's righteousness today? Based on everything we just read in Romans the 9th chapter. We went and we looked back and we brought it back till today. So what is Elohim's righteousness? We're not ignorant no more.
Yahushua.
Joshua, continue.
Obedience.
Obedience.
What do we walk upright?
Walk upright.
Is the being without guilt.
Right. Is to be deemed innocent in the eyes of the Most High. So that's Yah's righteousness. So how do you obtain Yah's righteousness today if we can't no longer sacrifice animals? If we can't, so what do you, when you say through the Son, what do you mean? How?
Confess that He is.
Oh, so now we're getting there.
In the name of Yeshua.
Now we're getting there. Now we're learning how to obtain. See, you got to be able to walk somebody through this thing, because you're going to be asked the question. And the scriptures say, be ready in season, out of season, to answer folk. Because people's going to come to you because they know you religious and you wear garments and you go on every Saturday. Folk know who to come looking for when they in trouble. Like the man who killed his wife and his 5 children. There's going to be an opportunity for you to be an interceder to stop some of that stuff. Just like the people that was around him that didn't have the spirit of discernment, that didn't know or pick up. And it's not always for everybody to know everything, but we just need to be ready for whatever time the Father want to use us for whatever situation. Because we don't know what's ahead for us from this day forward. And whenever a message like this comes, believe me, somebody in here about to be tested. Or there's something that's going on in our lives that we got to be the answer. Or we got to take the people to the answer, which is Yah, is the source of all answers. So, verse 3, it says, for they being ignorant of Yah's righteousness, so Yah's righteousness is the blood shedding of Yahushua, and you have to believe that. And that's what they didn't believe, all right? Verse 4, Israel.
For Mashiach is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes.
See that? So you got to believe the story of Yahushua dying, just like we used to have to physically sacrifice animals. See, there's nothing about the sacrificing animals that we don't have to believe, because we saw that, or you can see that physically today. If somebody get an animal and cut the head off and drain the blood, you can see that. But with Yahushua, we can't keep crucifying him. So you got to believe the story. That's it. You got to believe. Everybody didn't see Yahushua in the 3.5 years that he walked the earth. Everybody that was in Israel didn't see. Everybody that was around him didn't even know. That's why when he walked the earth, I believe it was in Luke the 24th chapter, and he was walking and he was like, did you hear the story? What happened a couple days ago? And it was like, what story? That man that was killed. Everybody didn't know about the Messiah. Everybody did not know. Just even the ones that were living in the time. So we have to believe now and confess. This is how you obtain salvation. This is how you obtain. Turn to Ecclesiastes, the 7th chapter. And we're going right back to Romans.
Should we emphasize too that the name is important?
Oh, absolutely.
Confess with our mouth that Yahshua.
Right, exactly.
And not Jesus.
That's right. And all of that is part of Yah's righteousness. All of that. The right name. I'm just getting the basics down. Because those of us in this room, we've accepted that. For the most part. But that's a very good point, sister. That's an excellent point. And I'm going to deal with, you got to have the right name, and all of that is part of it.
Always. And that's kind of mind-boggling too, y'all, because when I first read that, when the guys were talking about the Messiah dying and everything, it's like, why wouldn't you know that? What were you doing that you didn't get the message or the memo? But it's just like today.
Right.
It's no different.
And that's the problem. We look at the scriptures with the wrong mindset. But if you look at it like you look at your life today, then you get a better understanding. Because there's stuff that's going on at the end of your block you don't even know nothing about. You see what I'm saying? It ain't like it used to be. Everybody knew everybody. There's a lot of stuff. Ecclesiastes, the 7th chapter. Okay, Ecclesiastes 7. And I want to read Romans 10 and 4 again. And then keep your finger at Ecclesiastes 7. And we're going to read verse 8. And it reads, "For Yehoshua is the end of the law for righteousness." So he's the end of the law for righteousness. Righteousness means to be deemed innocent or justified. Okay, read Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 8, Israel.
8. The end of a thing is better than its beginning.
See that? So what was the beginning, you all? When we read now think about, stay congruent with the story that we read in Romans, the 9th chapter. I'm sorry, Hebrews, the 9th chapter. What was the beginning in the first chapter? I mean, in the first part of the 9th chapter of Hebrews.
The tabernacle.
The tabernacle. Keep going.
Testament.
The
Old Testament.
All of that was in the beginning, wasn't it? So all of that was the beginning of obtaining salvation.
Right.
See that? Okay, read 8 again, verse 8 again.
The end of a thing is better than its beginning.
Now, what was the end of that matter in the 9th chapter? Because we dealt with the physical building, the physical sacrificing all the animals, and all that good stuff. And then what was the end that we read in verse 14 and 15 of Hebrews 9? The Messiah.
Yeah.
So Yahushua was the end of the sacrificing, of the contract, of the testament, right? So greater was the end, wasn't it?
Greater was the end.
This is what he's talking about.
Right.
Greater is the end of that thing, of that matter. Continue on, Israel, that verse 8 again.
The end of a thing is better than its beginning.
See that? So the end is better than the beginning. Because the end was Yehoshua. Remember we read in Hebrews the 9th chapter, it talked about a new covenant, a new testament. So the last or final testament was better than the first. Because the first, like Ezra said earlier, was a shadow of something greater. All right? So let's go back to Romans 10 and read verse 4 with your new mind. See, we ain't got that far in this chapter, but we've been all over the book. Remember, Scripture interprets Scripture. I don't need to interpret. I could, but I don't need to. I let the Scripture interpret Scripture. Romans 10 and verse 4.
For Mashiach is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes.
So you got to believe. So for everybody that believe, that's part of it, right? So we have to know, and then once you know, you got to believe. And then once you believe, there's something else after that. Verse 5.
5. For Moshe writes about the righteousness which is of the law. The man who does those things shall live by them.
See that? So what Moshe wrote was the righteousness of the law. So Moses wrote that which he was given instructions to write, because that was the way we obtain salvation then. There's a different way of obtaining salvation today. All right? So we're going to skip down to verse 9. I'm not going to deal with 7 and 8 right now. So skip down to 10 and verse 9.
9. That if you confess with your mouth the Master Yahushua and believe in your heart that Elohim has raised him from the dead, you will be saved.
So that is the moment in time and space that you obtain salvation. But remember, this lesson is talking about obtaining and maintaining. Just because you obtain something don't mean you have it forever. So it says salvation comes to those who believe. Believe what? The knowledge. So what is the knowledge? We read in the law and we read in the testimony that it was once animals and then it became the Messiah. So once you know that, now you have to believe it. All right? So he said that after you believe it, you shall confess with your mouth and shall believe in your heart that Yah had raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. Something takes place at that particular moment. When you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Yahushua is who the book say he is, that is the day you become